Stop, breathe, and listen to what I'm about to tell you in the next few seconds, because this could be the most important thing you'll hear today. It happened. It just happened. While you were drinking your coffee, while you were scrolling through your feed, while you were complaining about the traffic, something moved on the other side of the world. And this thing that almost no one has yet connected the dots to, could change your life, your family's life, the price of your food, the future of your country in a matter of hours. I'm not exaggerating. I wish I were, but I'm not. Warships have positioned themselves, missiles have been armed, drones have crossed skies that shouldn't have been crossed, and at the center of it all, a small piece of sea you've probably never heard of, but which carries in its waters the economic destiny of the entire planet. A place where Iran and the United States are, at this very second, with their fingers on the trigger. And if that finger is pulled, the world as you know it ends. It really ends, overnight, without warning, without a second chance. And the most chilling, the most absurd thing, what I need you to understand now, is that this was already written 4,000 years ago, on an ancient scroll, by the mouth of a man who walked barefoot through the desert when there was no United States, no Iran, no oil, no missiles, nothing that we know today. That man was called Abraham, and God spoke to him. And what God said that day is being fulfilled now at this very moment in front of you while you watch this video. And most people in the world have no idea. They are asleep, they are distracted, they are anesthetized. They are worried about things that in a few days may no longer matter at all. But you are not. You stopped, you clicked, you are here. And this is not by chance. This is not an algorithm, this is a warning. A direct, personal, urgent warning for you. Because time is running out. And what I'm going to show you from now on, you won't be able to unsee. It will forever change the way you look at the news, the Bible, and the little time you have left before everything turns upside down. Before we proceed, if you're new to this channel, subscribe now and turn on notifications. What I'm going to show you is something most people have never connected with before. And if you want to delve even deeper into everything we'll be covering today, I've prepared an exclusive study guide called The Complete Prophetic Map, where I analyze all 70 prophecies that are being fulfilled now, prophet by prophet, with timelines, maps, and biblical references. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment. We are down to the last few parts, and be enriched by this powerful material that will give you a complete understanding of all the biblical eschatology being fulfilled in the last days. Now let's continue. I know it sounds like an exaggeration. I know you've heard many times that the end is near, that war is about to begin, that something terrible is going to happen. And nothing happened. And you got used to it. And maybe, deep down, you even shut down a part of your heart to this kind of warning, because you no longer believe, because you're tired, because life is already too difficult to carry more weight. But I ask you one thing. Don't shut it down now. Not today. Because what I'm going to show you isn't my opinion. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's not guesswork. It's a connection between an ancient text written 4 millennia ago and a headline that has just been published. A connection so precise, so aligned, so frightening, that when you understand it, you will never be able to look at the news the same way again. You will begin to see between the lines. You will begin to perceive patterns where before you only saw chaos. You will begin to recognize in each headline a page of scripture being turned before your eyes. And that changes a person, that transforms them. This awakens the person from spiritual slumber and sets them on their feet, alert and ready. And everything revolves around one place, a narrow place. A place that most people don't even know exists. A place that, geographically speaking, is only a few kilometers wide at its narrowest point, but which carries within its waters the economic destiny of practically every nation. That place is called the Strait of Hormuz. And I'm going to explain what it is, why it matters, and why it's at the center of a storm that could change everything. But before that, you need to understand one thing. You need to understand that this place didn't appear out of nowhere. It's been there in that position, at that exact point, since before any modern civilization. And it borders lands that were once trodden by men whose names you've known since childhood. Men who walked with God, men who heard voices from heaven, men who received promises that are still being fulfilled today, right now, at this very moment as you watch this video. Men like Abraham, men like Isaac, men like Jacob, men like Ishmael, yes, him too, whom many forget, but who has a role in this puzzle that will surprise you. And it is this puzzle that I want to show you the pieces of, one by one, until the complete picture is revealed before you, with a clarity that will take your breath away. If you want to understand what's happening before it's too late, before the next chapter of this story unfolds and catches you and your family off guard, subscribe to this channel now. Turn on notifications, because what I'm about to show you in the next few hundred seconds is something you need to hear until the end. And I'll be bringing more content like this, connecting what's written in scripture with what's exploding in the headlines. So subscribe, because you won't want to miss what comes next. Not now, not at this point in history. This channel exists for that, to be a voice in the digital wilderness, to be a beacon in a sea of useless information, to be a point of reference for those who, like you, feel in their hearts that the time is serious and that they need someone to help connect the dots. So while I continue, do it now. Subscribe, turn on notifications, and follow me, because what comes next is the heart of this message. Now take a deep breath, because we're going to go back 4,000 years in time. You're going to forget for a moment the noise of the news, the noise of social media, the rush of the modern world. And you're going to walk in silence through the deserts of the ancient East. There, somewhere lost among mountains and dunes, there was a man who had nothing extraordinary in human eyes, a married man without children, already elderly, living in a region called Ur of the Chaldeans, which today is more or less where modern Iraq is. This man was called Abram, then he came to be called Abraham. And his story began in a very simple way, with a voice that spoke to him, a voice that asked him to leave his land, his people, his father's house, and go to a place he didn't even know. And Abraham, for some reason that human reason cannot properly explain, obeyed. He took his wife, his servants, his flocks, and left, without GPS, without a map, without guarantees, only with a promise. And that promise weighed more heavily on his heart than all the uncertainties of the journey. That promise became the fuel for his journey, the guiding light of his heart, the reason for every step taken into the unknown. And this promise wasn't just spiritual. This is the part that almost no one told you. This is the part you need to understand today, because it's the key to everything that's happening now in the Middle East. The promise made to Abraham involved territories. It involved specific lands with specific boundaries, described in detail so that today, when we open a modern map, we immediately recognize them. It involved descendants, many descendants, who would form not just one people but several peoples. And it involved conflicts, yes, conflicts, because along with the blessing came the warning that these descendants would live in tension, would fight for space, would shed blood for generations. And all of this was written even before these peoples existed, before there was a name, a flag, a language, a culture. It was all there, anticipated, described, announced, as if someone sitting at a point outside of time had looked at the entire future and recorded the great movements that were yet to happen. And this someone, we know who it is. It is he who is not subject to time, he who sees the end from the beginning. To him for whom 1,000 years are like a day, and a day like 1,000 years. And this is where things start to get complicated. Because when the Bible speaks of Abraham's descendants, it doesn't speak of just one group. It speaks of lineages, of branches. One of these lineages generated the people we now call Israel. Another lineage generated peoples who spread throughout the Arabian Peninsula, through what is now Iraq, Iran, parts of Syria, parts of Jordan. And these lineages from the beginning carried within them a tension, a rivalry, a historical weight that no diplomatic agreement, no UN meeting, no peace treaty has managed to erase. Because what is at stake there is not just politics, it's not just oil, it's not just territory, it's something older, something deeper, something that was sown 4,000 years ago and is germinating today, right now in front of you. And that is why, however much men of goodwill try to resolve that issue, however many agreements are signed, however many handshakes happen in front of cameras, peace never lasts very long in that piece of land, because the root is older than any human diplomacy can reach. And only the original author of that story can, finally one day, put everything in its proper place. Think about it. Think about the map. Think about the Middle East. Mentally visualize that region. Iran is there as a major Gulf power, with a specific religious regime, an aggressive stance against Israel and the United States, an ongoing nuclear program, and missiles capable of reaching targets thousands of kilometers away. On the other side, Saudi Arabia, the Emirates, Qatar, Bahrain, Oman, all countries of the Arab world, many of them also descended from the same ancestors, but aligned differently, some closer to the west, others oscillating, all depending on that small waterway to export what sustains them: oil. And right there in the middle, cutting across both banks, is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow passage, a bottleneck, a choke point that, if closed-minded, blocked by sunken ships or crossfire, interrupts about 1/5 of all the oil circulating on the planet. 1/5. Think about that number. 5 parts, 1 whole stopping, 5 meals, 1 whole disappearing, 5 jobs, an entire one disappearing. It's not a minor detail, it's an economic earthquake waiting to happen. Do you understand the weight of what I'm talking about? 1/5, 20%. 1 in every 5 barrels of oil that fuel factories, trucks, airplanes, generators, hospitals, supermarkets, power plants, passes through there, through that little piece of sea. And now imagine what happens to your life if overnight the price of oil doubles, triples, quadruples. Imagine the price of gasoline at the gas station on your street. Imagine the price of bread, rice, beans, which depend on transportation. Imagine inflation. Imagine unemployment. Imagine the panic in the markets. Imagine the chain reaction. Because all of this, absolutely all of this, hangs on that thin line of water called Hormuz. And it is precisely there that the tension is increasing at this moment. And each passing day that line becomes a little more taut. Each provocation, each missile test, each ship movement pulls the rope a little more. And there comes a point when the rope, no matter how strong it is, breaks. And when it breaks, whoever is on the other side, unprepared, will be thrown to the ground, with everything they love, with everything they've built, with everything they believe is stable. And I need you to understand something very important. This isn't new, this didn't start yesterday. This has been building for decades. And in the last few weeks, in the last few days, it has entered a new phase. A phase that many analysts are calling the point of no return. A phase in which military movements are no longer just symbolic. They are no longer just demonstrations of force. They are no longer just political messages sent through diplomatic channels. Now they are real ships, real aircraft carriers, real missiles, real drones, real deployments, real threats. And on the other side, a rhetoric that rises every day, a rhetoric that speaks of revenge, of retaliation, of annihilation, of wiping entire nations off the map. A rhetoric that, 30 years ago, nobody took very seriously, but that today, after everything we've seen happen in the world, nobody can ignore anymore. Because we've seen towers fall. We've seen entire countries turn to ashes. We've seen leaders carry out threats that seem delusional. We've seen weapons go from the drawing board to the battlefield. And at this point in history, when someone stands before cameras and says they're going to wipe a country off the map, we no longer have the luxury of thinking it's just talk. And in the midst of all this, the United States, the greatest military power on the planet, the nation that, like it or not, since the end of World War II has assumed the role of guaranteeing the security of these global trade routes. And it is there, in that strait, that the American Navy maintains a constant presence, with ships patrolling, with planes monitoring, with submarines hidden in the depths. And every time an Iranian boat gets too close, every time a drone crosses the wrong airspace, every time a missile is fired towards any target, the world holds its breath. Because any spark there can turn into a wildfire, and any wildfire there can turn into war, and any war there can turn into something much bigger than a regional war. It can become the trigger for something that the Bible has already described in terrifying detail. And that is precisely why the eyes of scholars of prophecy are there, fixed, unblinking, following hour by hour. Because they know, they understand that that little piece of the map is not just geopolitics, it is sacred geography, it is the chosen stage. It is the setting where many things are yet to be accomplished, and here I need to pause. Because perhaps you're listening and thinking, okay, I understand the geopolitical aspect, I understand the oil, I understand the strategic importance. But what does Abraham have to do with all this? How is it possible that a man who lived 4,000 years ago, who walked in sandals through the desert, who didn't even dream of the existence of nuclear submarines, was warned about this? And this is where I ask you to open your heart, because the answer is not simple. The answer requires you to understand how God speaks, how God anticipates, how God sows at the beginning of a story, everything that will unfold at the end of it. And Abraham was, in a way, the first man to receive, so clearly, a glimpse of what was to come. Not with all the details, not with the names of modern countries, but with principles, with seeds, with guiding principles that, when germinated over the centuries, would result exactly in the scenario we see today. Like a painter sketching in the corner of the canvas, a draft that will only make sense when the entire painting is finished, and the painting is nearing completion, and we are living through the moment when the final brushstrokes are being applied. When God called Abraham, he didn't just say, "Come with me." He spoke very specific things. He spoke about a land. He spoke about geographical boundaries. He spoke about descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. He spoke about blessings and curses. He spoke about a future in which, through Abraham's descendants, all the families of the earth would be blessed. And there, at that moment, a seed was planted that germinated into entire peoples. Abraham's children were not few. He had Ishmael first, with the Egyptian servant Hagar, and then Isaac, with his wife Sarah. And from these two sons were born two lineages that, from the cradle, already carried tension. A tension that was recorded in the very pages of Scripture. A tension about who was the rightful heir. A tension about who received the main blessing. A tension that spanned centuries, millennia, and has reached here to this very moment when warships are positioned in the Gulf. It's not that God loved one and hated the other, as many misunderstand. God in his mercy cared for both. He promised things to Ishmael as well. He blessed Ishmael as well. But he established that the specific covenant, the channel through which the Redeemer of the world would come, would pass through Isaac. And this choice, even though sovereign, generated resentments that would span generations, like an underground river that flows invisibly, but which from time to time springs to the surface in the form of wars, attacks, hatred, and rivalries. And if you think this is a coincidence, I want to ask you a question. How many coincidences need to happen before you start to suspect that maybe, just maybe, they aren't coincidences? Because think about it. The descendants of Ishmael spread out exactly across the region where the Arab peoples are today. The descendants of Isaac, through Jacob, formed the 12 tribes of Israel, which still exist today, having returned to the Promised Land after 2,000 years scattered around the world against all historical odds. And between these two branches, where does modern tension arise? Exactly from the place where it all began. Exactly from the geographical point described in the Bible. Exactly in the territory that we see on the map today, with borders, flags, armies, and a strait of water called Hormuz right there in the middle of it all. That's a lot of coincidence. It's too much coincidence to be a real coincidence, and when coincidences accumulate in this way, we need to have the intellectual honesty to admit that perhaps we are facing something greater than chance. Perhaps we are witnessing a design, a plan, an intelligence that foresaw everything beforehand and recorded it beforehand. And what just happened, what motivated this video you're watching now, fits so perfectly into this prophetic framework that it's chilling. Because it's not just an incident, it's not just an isolated skirmish, it's a pattern, it's an escalation. It's a sequence of movements that military analysts are tracking hour by hour, and that pastors and scholars of biblical prophecy are looking at and saying, that's it, that's exactly it. That's what was described, that's what was announced, that's what was predicted for the end times. And that's why I'm here recording this video talking to you now, because I believe from the bottom of my heart that you didn't stumble upon this video by chance. You were guided here. Something brought you to this screen, something made you stop scrolling and click precisely on this content. And I believe it's because there's a message that God wants to deliver to you today through these words. And I, as a mere instrument, only want to be faithful in passing this message on without softening it, without diluting it, without softening it. Because this is not a time for softening. This is a time for clarity. This is a time to see the world as it is and to take a stand. They are happening. They are on your screen, they are in the news, they are in military movements, they are in the speeches of world leaders. They are in earthquakes, epidemics, famines, wars, and rumors of wars. And they are, in a very particular way, in this specific tension in the Middle East, which is the prophetic epicenter of everything that is yet to come. And this epicenter has an address, it has coordinates, it has latitude and longitude. It's not a metaphor, it's not symbolism, it's concrete geography which anyone can look up on a map right now and see with their own eyes. And what is written in the Bible about that region is so detailed that when we overlay the ancient text with a modern map, the accuracy is breathtaking. If what you're seeing now makes sense to you, if you're connecting dots you never connected before, do me a favor, click the like button right now. It only takes a second and helps this video reach more people who need to hear this message. And leave a comment below. Write, "He lives," or Maranatha, if you believe Jesus will return and can see these signs being fulfilled. I read all the comments. And if you want the complete analysis of all 70 prophecies we're covering, with the prophetic timeline, the map of biblical nations, and the quick reference guide, get your copy of the complete prophetic map. The item, it's everything I wish I'd had when I started studying these topics. The link is right there in the description below and in the first pinned comment. Grab that material right now before the units run out. Now, let me show you what comes next, because this is where everything fits together. But I want to go back a little because I know there are many people listening to me now who still don't quite understand why this strait is so critical. So let me delve deeper. The Strait of Hormuz is literally the only maritime outlet from the Persian Gulf to the Indian Ocean. Think of it as a funnel. You have all the oil from the Gulf being pumped by Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the Emirates, Kuwait, Qatar, Bahrain, and also Iran itself. All of this needs to go somewhere to reach the ships, the ports, the refineries around the world. And that somewhere is a single channel. A channel that, at its narrowest point, is about 30-odd kilometers wide, and which is geographically controlled by margins that belong precisely to Iran on one side and Oman on the other. In other words, half of the natural control of this strait is literally in the hands of the Iranian regime. And that's no small thing, that's real power. This is leverage, as they say in English, a lever, a concrete advantage that can be used in any negotiation, in any crisis, at any time when the regime feels it needs to force a reaction from the world. And Iran knows this. Iran has always known this. And in every crisis, in every tension, in every moment of friction with the West, Iran plays this card, the strait card, the threat to close it, the threat to mine the waters, the threat to sink Western ships that try to pass. And for decades, this was just a threat, a negotiating tool, a trump card. But now the conversation has changed. Now the threats are accompanied by concrete actions. Now the ships are positioning themselves. Now the drones are flying. Now the missiles are being tested. And with each passing day, the line between threat and execution gets thinner. And that's why analysts around the world are looking at Hormuz as the most dangerous point on the planet today. More dangerous than any other active conflict. More dangerous than any other disputed border. More dangerous even than other hotspots that occupy the headlines more frequently. Because what is at stake there has the potential to turn the world upside down in a matter of days. And when I say days, I'm being generous. Maybe it'll be hours, maybe minutes after the trigger is pulled. And I need you to understand that, from the United States' point of view, allowing the closure of this strait is not an option. It simply isn't. No American president of any party, of any ideology, can simply accept that this route be blocked, because the economic consequences would be devastating, not only for the United States, but for all allies, for all of Europe, for all of Asia, for the entire world. So if Iran really tries to close Hormuz, the American response will be immediate. It will be military, it will be brutal. And Iran knows this. And yet, it continues to position itself. It continues to test the limits. It continues to approach the abyss, as if something were pushing it, as if there were a force beyond strategic reason pushing everything towards confrontation. And it is here, precisely here, that spiritual discernment begins to make a difference. because those who look only with human eyes see only calculation and miscalculation. But those who look with spiritual eyes perceive that there is something more. There is an imposed blindness, there is a hardness of heart, there is an invisible push. Just as in ancient times Pharaoh was hardened to fulfill a greater purpose, so too today there are minds being hardened, decisions being made that in human eyes seem like insanity, but which in the bigger picture fulfill an unfolding that was in some way already foreseen. And this is where we begin to understand why all of this is connected to what was said to Abraham 4,000 years ago. Because the Bible doesn't just speak of the past, the Bible speaks of the future. And when you combine the promises made to Abraham with the prophecies of later prophets, especially Isaiah, Jeremiah, Ezekiel, Daniel, and also with what Jesus said on the Mount of Olives, and with what John wrote in Revelation, you begin to see a pattern that describes in impressive detail a growing tension among the descendants of Abraham, centered in the Middle East, involving nations from the north, south, east, and west, converging on a final conflict. And this conflict, according to the texts, is not just political, it is spiritual, it is cosmic. It is the culmination of something that began long ago, when God spoke to an old man in a desert and said, "Leave your land, and I will make you into a great nation." That seemingly simple phrase was the first stone of a gigantic edifice that has been under construction ever since. And now, 4,000 years later, we are seeing the last floors being erected. The work is almost finished. And when it is finished, the world as we know it will have ended. And perhaps you are there now on the other side of the screen, feeling uneasy, feeling something strange in your chest, a mixture of fear and recognition, as if something inside you were saying, "It's true, I already knew this somehow, I had just forgotten, I had just been distracted." And that, my friend, is the Spirit. It's not suggestion, it's not my manipulation, it's not a marketing trick. It's the calm voice of God trying to wake you up at a time when the whole world is sleeping, at a time when most people are worried about things that, in a few weeks, may no longer exist as they know them, at a time when the ground is shifting beneath humanity's feet and almost no one is noticing. And He is speaking to you now, at this very moment. It's no coincidence that these words are reaching you. It's no accident that the algorithm brought you here. God uses means, God uses people, God uses technology, God uses videos, God even uses algorithms, because His word finds channels to reach exactly where it needs to reach, at the right time, in the right heart. And that's why I've been spending my time making videos like this, because I feel deep in my heart that this is the moment to warn, not to soothe, not to entertain, not to please. It's the moment to warn. And I know that not everyone will like it. I know that many people will skim over it, ignore it, scroll through their feed, look for a lighter distraction. But I also know that there will be people like you who will stop, who will listen, who will feel. And for those people, I continue recording, I continue speaking, I continue connecting the dots between what the Bible says and what the world is experiencing. Because I believe there's a mission in this. There's a purpose, there's an urgency. And when I look in the mirror and ask myself what I can do in the face of all this, the answer that comes is always the same. Speak. Speak clearly. Speak with love. Speak with courage. Speak while there's still time. Because one day, the time to speak will end. And on that day, only the time to reap what has been sown will remain. And the urgency is real. Look, I don't want to be unnecessarily dramatic. I don't want to invent a crisis where there isn't one. But when you look coldly, without passion, just with your eyes open, at what's happening in the world today, you realize that the situation is much more delicate than the mainstream press lets on. The press has an interest in keeping the public calm. Governments have an interest in avoiding panic. Markets have an interest in preserving stability. So the real gravity of things is often softened, hidden, diluted amidst other news. But behind the scenes, the movements are different. Behind the scenes, the generals are on high alert. Behind the scenes, diplomats are racing against time. Behind the scenes, the families of certain rulers are already being evacuated to safer places. And this isn't theory. This is what always happens when something big is about to explode. It's historical pattern. It's protocol. And patterns don't lie, patterns only repeat what has already been seen before. And those who study history know very well that when these signs begin to appear, the clock is already ticking seconds, not years. Meanwhile, the scriptures remain there intact, open, available for anyone who wants to read them, and they continue to describe with frightening precision exactly the scenario we are seeing unfold. A scenario in which nations rise against nations, in which kingdoms rise against kingdoms, in which the love of many grows cold, in which iniquity increases, in which there are signs in the sun, moon, and stars, in which there is anguish among the nations, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. And on that day, Jesus said, "Men will faint from terror and from the expectation of the things that are coming upon the world." Read that again. Men will faint from terror, from the expectation of the things that are coming, not of the things that have already happened, of the things that are about to happen, of the anticipation, of the premonition, of the feeling that something is coming. And can you feel that feeling now? Can you sense that there's something in the air, something that even unbelievers are beginning to recognize, even if they can't explain it? That feeling that the world isn't working the way it used to, that things are moving faster, that each year seems worse than the last, that we can no longer pretend everything is all right. This feeling is real, and it has a name. And the Bible gave it a name, millennia, before we were born. Because that's the nature of prophetic signs. They don't come all at once. They come in layers, they come in waves. And each wave, each layer, increases the pressure a little more, increases the tension a little more, increases the perception a little more that something is out of balance. And what's happening in Hormuz is one of those waves. Perhaps one of the most significant waves in recent years. Because it touches a crucial point in the world economic system, and because it involves actors who are explicitly mentioned in kind and in shadow in the biblical prophecies that describe the end times. And waves, we know, come in sequence. One pulls the other, one prepares the ground for the other. And each wave, when it arrives, brings with it a little more than was promised from the beginning. And that's why we can't ignore a wave when it arrives. Because ignoring a wave is to be unprepared for the next ones, and the next ones always come bigger. And here I need to add another layer, because this video wouldn't be complete if I didn't talk about this. When the Bible describes the end times, it speaks of coalitions. It speaks of blocks of nations uniting against Israel. It speaks of armies coming from the north, coming from the east, converging on the territory of the Promised Land. And among these nations, scholars clearly identify the peoples who today occupy the region of ancient Persia. And who occupies ancient Persia today? Iran. Yes, Iran. The name has changed, the language has evolved, the religion has transformed, but the territory is the same. The people are, for the most part, descendants of the same ancient Medes and Persians who appear in the pages of Daniel. And it is from that region, according to prophecy, that important movements will originate in the last days. Military movements, ideological movements, movements that will try, once again, to erase Israel from the map and challenge the established order. And this attempt is not new. It was already done in the time of Esther, when Haman tried to annihilate the Jews within the Persian Empire itself. And God, at that time, raised up a woman, a young queen, who risked her own life to intervene. And the prophecy suggests that in the last days there will be a similar attempt again, only on a global scale, and that once again God will intervene in a surprising way to preserve his people. And when you look at the current rhetoric of the Iranian regime, when you listen to the speeches of its religious and political leaders, when you pay attention to what they say openly, without filter, you see that this rhetoric fits perfectly with what was described 2,600 years ago. It's as if someone wrote a script, and now the actors, unknowingly, are playing their roles exactly as planned. And the most impressive thing is that they are not reading the script. They don't believe in it. They reject it. But they are fulfilling it, word for word, gesture for gesture. Because that's how prophecy works. It is fulfilled through free people making free choices, and yet arriving exactly where God in his foreknowledge already knew they would arrive. It is the mystery of human freedom within divine sovereignty. It is the paradox that theologians have been trying to explain for centuries, and that can never be fully explained. But when observed in history, it leaves us silent, reverent, before a wisdom that exceeds everything the human mind can grasp. And I know all of this is a lot to process. I know you might be feeling overwhelmed right now. Maybe you're thinking, but what do I do with all this? How should I, an ordinary person, with an ordinary life, with ordinary problems, react to something so big? And that's the right question. That's the question that separates those who merely consume information from those who truly listen. Because the answer isn't to panic. The answer isn't to flee to the mountains. The answer isn't to stockpile supplies and lock yourself in your house. The answer is much deeper, much more internal, and at the same time much simpler than it seems. But I'll tell you what it is in a moment. Because first, I need to show you another layer, a layer that will make the puzzle fit together, a layer that connects the name of Abraham, the Strait of Hormuz, the tension between Iran and the United States, and what you need to do today when this video ends to position yourself on the right side of this story. Because yes, there is a right side, and there is a wrong side, and in the middle there is none. In the great crises of history, the middle ground is always swallowed up. Only those who chose clearly remain. If you've made it this far, if you feel these words are touching something inside you, I want to ask you one thing. Comment below with the words, "I am vigilant." That's all. Comment, "I am vigilant," so I know you're awake, that you're attentive, that you're not just another one among the sleeping crowd. And leave your like on this video, because every like helps this content reach more people who need to hear this now, before it's too late. There are brothers and sisters of yours, people close to you, people in your family, at work, in your church, who need this warning today. And your comment, your engagement, is what moves this video further. So do it now without pausing the video while you continue listening to me, because what comes next is even stronger. What comes next is the part that explains why everything I've said so far is just the tip of the iceberg. And the iceberg, my friend, is much bigger than you imagine. Much bigger, returning to the point. The layer I want to show you now is about time, about God's calendar. Because one thing the biblical prophets always made clear is that God operates within a time frame that He Himself established. He doesn't act hastily. He doesn't act late. He acts at the exact moment. And this moment is often linked to events that seem random to us, but which, when viewed from above, show an incredible pattern. Think about it. Israel, as a nation, was extinguished in 70 AD. The Romans destroyed Jerusalem, the temple was torn down, the people were scattered to the four corners of the world. And for almost 2,000 years, there was no longer a nation of Israel. The Jews lived in the diaspora, persecuted, massacred, almost extinct several times. And yet, against all historical odds, in 1948, suddenly, out of nowhere, Israel came back to exist as a nation, with a flag, with a government, with a language. Hebrew, which was a dead language, a purely religious language, was resurrected as an everyday language. This has never happened to any other people in history. None. And it happened exactly as the prophets had said it would. And when something of this magnitude happens, and happens precisely as it was announced thousands of years before, the only honest response is silence and reverence. Because there is no natural explanation. There is no possible coincidence. There is only the finger of God writing in history. And from 1948 onwards, the prophetic clock began to tick faster. The wars in the Middle East intensified. The conflicts surrounding Jerusalem became central to world politics. No one can ignore that small country anymore, the size of a medium-sized Brazilian state, which nevertheless makes headlines daily, mobilizes entire armies, provokes debates at the United Nations, and divides opinions in every corner of the planet. And why? Why this global obsession with a tiny piece of land? Why this incessant focus on that region? Because that's where the center is. That's the navel of the prophetic world. That's where the promises began, and where, according to the same prophecies, many of them will be fulfilled. And if you stop to look at the headlines of the last 50 years, you'll notice that Israel is always there, always present, always at the center of attention. A country the size of a Brazilian state, with a smaller population than many cities in the world, and yet treated as if it were the axis around which all world diplomacy revolves. That in itself should already raise a red flag in any thinking mind. And Iran, which is today Israel's main declared adversary, which finances armed groups in the region, which builds missiles capable of reaching Tel Aviv, which develops nuclear technology despite sanctions and agreements, which openly declares that it wants to wipe Israel off the map. This Iran is geographically positioned right there on the other side of the Gulf, controlling, along with Oman, the passage of Hormuz. It's as if everything is set up like on a chessboard. The pieces are in their places, the players are defined, the rules are written, and the clock is ticking. Tick, tock, tick, tock. And most people aren't even paying attention. They're worried about things that tomorrow may completely lose their meaning. They're discussing football. They're fighting over domestic politics. They're consuming soap operas. They're chasing consumer dreams. They're sinking into debt to buy things they don't even need, while the world's chessboard is being rearranged right before their eyes. And when the next big piece falls, these people will be surprised in the most painful way possible, because nobody prepared them, because nobody warned them, because nobody had the courage to tell the truth. And when I say this, I'm not trying to minimize the importance of ordinary life. I'm not saying your personal problems don't matter. They matter very much. God cares about every detail of your life, your electricity bill, your child's medicine, the job you're trying to get, the relationship that's hurting you, the pain you carry in silence. All of that matters to Him. But what I'm trying to show you is that there are larger scale events that will affect all these small things at the same time. And being prepared for the big events is, in fact, the best way to protect the small ones. Because whoever has their heart anchored in God, whoever is vigilant, whoever is walking in prayer, whoever has their spiritual house in order, that person is not caught off guard when the waves crash. That person knows where to stand firm. That person knows who to turn to. That person knows that even in the midst of the most violent earthquake, there is a rock that does not move, and upon that rock they have built their life. And that is the only construction that remains when the ground shakes. If what you're seeing now makes sense to you, if you're connecting dots you never connected before, do me a favor. Click the like button right now. It only takes a second and helps this video reach more people who need to hear this message. And leave a comment below. Tell me your name and where in the world you're watching from. And if you want the complete analysis of all 70 prophecies we're covering, with the prophetic timeline, the map of biblical nations, and the quick reference guide, get your copy of The Complete Prophetic Map. It's everything I wish I'd had when I started studying these topics. The link is right there in the description below and in the first pinned comment. Grab that material right now before the units run out. Now, let me show you what comes next, because this is where everything fits together. And I want to tell you a little more about Hormuz because I think you haven't fully grasped the scale of that place yet. Imagine a narrow corridor with mountains on one side and rougher land on the other. Imagine gigantic ships, the size of buildings, loaded with millions of barrels of oil, slowly navigating this corridor, day and night, week after week, month after month, year after year. They pass through there as if it were the most natural thing in the world. But each of these ships is, in fact, a target, a potential target, a target that can be hit by a missile launched from the Iranian coast in a matter of minutes, a target that can be boarded by speedboats, a target that can be paralyzed by mines placed in the depths. And if only a few of these ships are hit, traffic in the strait stops. Because no insurance company will cover the vessels anymore, because no ship owner will risk their cargo anymore, because fear will paralyze everything. And fear, once installed in the markets, spreads like wildfire. And what begins as an isolated incident can, in a matter of hours, turn into a complete shutdown of that corridor. And this shutdown, in turn, translates into chaos on supermarket shelves, at gas pumps, in household energy bills, in food prices, in everything. And fear is a powerful weapon. Often, Iran doesn't even need to actually close the strait. It just needs to create the credible threat that it will close it. It just needs to demonstrate capability. It just needs to make the market feel that the risk is real and the price of oil skyrockets. And the global economy trembles, and governments fall, and people despair. And the chessboard of world power rearranges itself. And that's exactly what's happening now, to varying degrees, at different levels, at different times. A dangerous dance between threat and response, between escalation and containment. between those who want to accelerate and those who are still trying to hold back. But each movement in this dance brings us a little closer to the moment when holding back will no longer be possible. And then when that moment arrives, there will be no time to prepare, there will be no time to react. It will be fast, it will be brutal, it will be irreversible. And those who are sleeping today will wake up in a world they don't recognize, with a currency that is no longer worth what it once was, with empty shelves, with streets filled with tension, with a future that seemed guaranteed and that suddenly has vanished. And that is why once again I insist, what the Bible described is not symbolic poetry. It is not empty allegory. It is not religious fiction. It is an anticipated description of real, concrete events, geographically located, politically determined, militarily prepared. And the more time passes, the more accurate these descriptions become. The more they align with reality, the more they reveal that the one who inspired them saw beyond the dimensions we can perceive. And this is, at the same time, frightening and comforting. Frightening because it means that what is to come is serious. Comforting because it means that nothing is outside of God's control. He knew, he warned, he prepared a path for those who belong to him. And this path is open, today, at this very moment, for anyone who wants to enter it. Not through their own merit, not through religion, but through faith, through surrender, through the yielding of the heart. And I want to tell you something that gives me chills every time I think about it. The word Ormuz, the name itself, in some ancient etymologies, refers to concepts of light and darkness, of guardian, of portal, as if the place from the beginning carried a symbolic weight. And it's no coincidence that it is precisely there, at that portal, that the crisis is forming. Because everything in this universe has meaning. Everything is connected. Everything points to something greater. And God, who is the Lord of history, who weaves the threads of time like a patient craftsman, gradually shows those who have eyes to see that nothing is outside of his control. Even when it seems that everything is out of control, even when it seems that the world is on the verge of chaos, he is there, he is in control, he is fulfilling what he said he would fulfill, and those who trust in him are not ashamed. Never, in any era, in any circumstance, in any collapse. Those who trust in him always find a way out, even when it seems there is no way out. They always find a way, even when all the walls seem closed, because he is the God who opens a path in the desert and rivers in the wilderness. And here I need to remind you of something very important. The Bible, when it speaks of the end times, doesn't only speak of catastrophes, it speaks of redemption, it speaks of hope, it speaks of a king who is coming. It speaks of a kingdom that will be established. It speaks of tears that will be wiped away. It speaks of a new earth and a new heaven. So, the purpose of this video, the purpose of this warning, is not to leave you desperate. It's not to throw you into a pit of fear. It's to call you to vigilance, to preparation, to the strengthening of your faith. Because what is coming is intense. Yes. It is serious. Yes. It is frightening in many aspects. Yes. But for those who are with Jesus, for those who are on their knees, for those who have a sincere heart before God, the end is not the end. It is the beginning. It is the beginning of something eternal, glorious, indescribable. It is the inauguration of what the human heart has always sought without knowing the name, that peace that no medicine, no therapy, no relationship, no material possession could offer. It is fullness. It's his presence face to face, its true rest after so much accumulated weariness. But to get there, we need to go through the present moment. And the present moment demands posture. The present moment demands attention. The present moment demands discernment. And that's why I invite you at this moment to take an inner pause. You don't even need to pause the video. Just a pause in your heart. A pause in which you say to God, Lord, if it is your will, open my eyes. If there is something I need to understand, teach me. If there is something out of place in my life, show me. If there are steps I need to take, guide me. This short prayer, made from the heart, is more powerful than you imagine. Because God does not despise a contrite heart. God does not ignore a soul that seeks. God always answers, in some way, those who truly want to hear him. And often the answer comes in unexpected ways. It may come through a phone call from a friend. It may come through a phrase you hear on the radio. It may come through the title of a book you had never noticed. It may come through a dream. It may come through the sudden peace that fills your chest. God has 1,000 ways to answer, and each one is perfectly suited to the person asking. And while you take this inner pause, I'll continue telling the story. Because there are still parts of this picture that I haven't shown you. There are still details about how the confrontation between Iran and the United States might unfold, according to the scenarios being studied by military analysts around the world. And there are also details about how biblical prophecies describe the sequence of events that will lead to the final conflict. And I want to show you how these two lines, the line of the present and the line of Scripture, meet at the same point. Because when you see these two lines converging, when you realize that modern military planners are describing, with technical and updated terms, exactly the kind of scenario that the ancient prophets described with ancient poetic language, you can't help but be impressed. You can't help but recognize that there's a convergence happening. And convergences of this kind are not random. They are time markers. They are signs that the clock is approaching an important tick. Military scenarios describe a swift US response should Iran attempt any more aggressive action in the Strait. They speak of precision airstrikes, missiles launched from ships and submarines, special operations on Iranian soil, destruction of critical infrastructure, and the decapitation of military leadership. They also speak of an Iranian reaction, which would be swift and intense, involving attacks on American bases in the region, attacks against Israel, and the activation of allied groups in Lebanon, Syria, Iraq, and Yemen. And all this would happen in a matter of hours, perhaps less. A fiery inferno exploding over an entire region with unpredictable consequences. And Russia and China, observing everything, calculating their next moves because nobody wants to be left out of a geopolitical rearrangement of this magnitude. In this scenario, the entire world order as we have known it since the end of World War II could be redefined in days. Alliances will fracture, new coalitions will emerge. Countries that seem firm today may falter. And in the midst of this reorganization, those who have previously studied the prophetic map will have an immense advantage in understanding. They will know what to expect. They will know where to look. They will have peace where others will have terror. And the Bible in turn speaks of a day when the battle will be fought in a place called Armageddon, with nations from many places converging on that region. It speaks of deaths on a scale that human imagination has difficulty processing. It speaks of a river that becomes a path for the kings of the East. It speaks of cosmic signs, of darkness over the earth, of tremors, of hail. It speaks of a sequence of judgments that fall upon a world that refuse to repent. And in the midst of all this, it also speaks of a faithful remnant, of a group of people who, even in the midst of chaos, maintain faith, maintain hope, maintain communion with God. And it is this group that I want you to be a part of, because this group is not defined by ethnicity, by nationality, by formal religious affiliation, by social position. This group is defined by one thing only, a heart that trusts in God through Jesus Christ. That's all. Nothing more. And this heart is what God looks at. It is what God recognizes. This is what God keeps as a treasure in the midst of the storm, because it's not about being afraid. I know I've used strong words in this video. I know the tone has been urgent, but it's not about being paralyzed by fear. It's about having reverence in the sense of awe of God, awe that is the beginning of wisdom, awe that makes us walk the line, not out of obligation, but out of love. Out of gratitude, out of recognition of who He is. And it is this kind of posture that protects the soul in turbulent times. Not weapons, not stockpiled food, not bunkers. These things may help the body a little, perhaps for a while. But the soul is only protected in a living relationship with the Lord. And this relationship cannot be improvised. It is cultivated, day after day, prayer after prayer, reading after reading, conversation after conversation. Small constant moments that, added up over time, form a foundation that no wind can knock down. And if you haven't started building this foundation yet, the time is now, not tomorrow. Now. Look, I want to talk about something that's been keeping me up at night lately. I've observed how many Christians are living as if none of this is true, as if the signs don't exist, as if time were infinite. As if there were always a tomorrow to correct themselves, to reconcile, to draw closer to God. And this attitude is dangerous, because time is not infinite, and tomorrow is not guaranteed. And each passing day, the clock moves forward a little more, and the margin for maneuver decreases a little more. And when the crisis finally knocks on the door, when things finally get out of control, when it finally becomes evident that there's no turning back, many will realize they wasted too much time on things that didn't have eternal weight. And they will want to go back, and they will want to start over. But this return isn't always possible under the conditions the person would like, because there are times when the door closes, and knocking on it later is too late. The Bible speaks of foolish virgins who let their oil run out. It speaks of men who built on sand. It speaks of people who heard and didn't put it into practice. And their endings are always described with sad words, words that I don't want said about you or about me. Therefore I implore you with all the sincerity of my heart, if you are listening to me now and you know that something is out of place in your life, resolve it today, not tomorrow. Today. If you need to reconcile with someone, reconcile. If you need to ask for forgiveness, ask. If you need to let go of a sin, let go. If you need to pray again, start now, even if it's with few words, even if it's with tears, even if it's in silence. God hears you. God sees you. God is waiting for you. He always has been. He has never given up. Never, no matter how far you have gone, no matter how deep you have fallen, no matter how dirty you feel, His hand remains outstretched, and His time remains generous. But time in the historical dimension, that is running out, that is coming to an end, and no one knows exactly when the clock will strike the final hour. We only know that it is closer than yesterday, and tomorrow it will be even closer, and the day after tomorrow even closer still. And so it goes until the moment when there will be no more after. And I want to return to the Strait of Hormuz because there's a detail I left for the end, a detail that I find fascinating. Did you know that that region in ancient maps was described as a crossroads between worlds? Between the Arab world and the Persian world, between the West and the East, between the continent and the ocean, between the desert and the sea. And crossroads, in biblical narratives, always have symbolic weight. They are places of decision. They are places where paths diverge. They are places where choices are made. And it's no coincidence that it is precisely at a geographical crossroads that humanity is being placed at a historical crossroads. The whole world is being forced, whether it realizes it or not, to choose a side. Not just a political side, but a spiritual side, an eternal side. Because when the pieces finally move, when the strait becomes a battleground, when nations are forced to take a stand, each person individually will also need to take a stand. With whom are they? In whom do they trust? In whom do they anchor their hope? And this choice, no matter how much we try to postpone it, comes for everyone sooner or later. No one escapes it, not even those who say they don't want to choose. Because not choosing is also a choice, and it's usually the worst one. And on that day, and in the days leading up to it, it's best to have the answer ready. It's best to already know in whom you believe. It's best to be firmly established on the rock and not on the shifting sands of human opinions. Because human opinions change. The media changes, politicians change, economies change, markets change, even friends change, unfortunately. But the Word of God remains. The Word of God does not fail. The Word of God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. And whoever builds their life upon it, whoever makes it the foundation of their choices, will not be shaken when the winds blow. They will remain firm. They will be like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in its season, whose leaf does not wither, and whatever they do prospers. And prospering here doesn't necessarily mean getting rich, having a fancy car, living in a mansion. It means something much deeper. It means having peace when the world is at war. It means having joy when everything around you weeps. It means having purpose when everyone feels that life no longer makes sense. This is true prosperity. This is the inheritance of God's children. Now, listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Everything I've said so far, every word, every connection, every piece of information, every verse mentioned, has only one purpose: to make you stop, to make you reflect, to make you take one more step towards God. That's the only reason I recorded this video. It's not to get views. It's not to become famous. It's not to make money. It's because I believe we are living in a unique time, a time that our grandparents and great-grandparents didn't live through, a time when things are converging in ways that make any serious scholar stop and think. And in this time, to remain silent would be betrayal. To be quiet would be cowardice. So I speak, I shout in a way, not with my voice but with my heart. I shout so that you hear, so that you wake up, so that you prepare yourself. And if this voice reaches even one soul that was on the edge of the abyss and makes it turn around, it will have been worth every second spent on this video, every minute editing, every hour thinking, each prayer asking for guidance. And preparing isn't about accumulating material things, as I've already said. Preparing is about tidying up your heart. Preparing is about having your spiritual house in order. Preparing is about forgiving those who have hurt you. Preparing is about asking forgiveness from those you have hurt. Preparing is about praying daily, even if only for a few minutes, even if with simple words. Preparing is about reading the Word, even if it's just one chapter a day, even if it's just one verse a day. Preparing is about congregating, being close to other Christians, having fellowship, strengthening the bonds of faith. Preparing is about fasting from time to time to subdue the flesh and sensitize the spirit. Preparing is about giving, helping, serving, being attentive to others. Preparing is ultimately living each day as if it could be your last, but planting as if you were going to live 100 years. It's the holy tension between eternal urgency and daily perseverance. And it is in this tension that the true Christian is forged, not in comfort, not in relaxation, but in vigilance full of hope, in expectation full of patience, in action full of confidence. And while you do this, while you prepare, the world will continue spinning in its convulsions. Iran will continue positioning its ships. The United States will continue mobilizing its forces. The headlines will continue coming, sometimes calmer, sometimes more tense, but always pointing in one direction. That direction that the prophets had already described, that direction that Abraham had, in a way, signaled when he obeyed the call. That direction that points to the day when the Lord will intervene definitively in human history. And that day, I believe, is no longer as distant as it once was. And I believe that the signs we are seeing, including this one in the Strait, are part of the panel that God is illuminating so that His children are not caught unprepared, because He is a Father who warns. He is a Father who alerts. He is a Father who does not want His children to be surprised by what is to come. And that is why He spoke. That is why He sent the prophets. That is why He sent His own Son to leave clear warnings. And that is why, even today, He raises voices here and there, in different forms, to continue repeating the same message. Watch, for you do not know the day nor the hour. Because the Bible is clear in saying that, for the children of light, the day of the Lord should not come like a thief. It should not catch them unprepared. It should not surprise them as it surprises the children of darkness, who live distracted, numb, carefree. The children of light are vigilant, they are sober, they are attentive. And therefore, when the time comes, they recognize it, they know. They do not tremble with panic, they tremble with reverence, they lift their heads because their redemption is near. And it is this attitude that I want to see in you, friend, who is on the other side of the screen. I want you to be a child of light, a daughter of light. I want you to be found watching, praying, serving, loving, persevering. I want that when all this that is unfolding now comes to fruition, you are not caught by surprise. That you look and say, I knew, I was prepared. My heart was at peace, my anchor was firm. And more than that, I want you, when that day comes, to be a beacon of light for others around you. Because they will despair. They will need someone who knows where to look. And that someone can be you. That someone must be you. God has prepared you to be a light in times of darkness. And that's why videos like this need to reach as many people as possible. Not because I need an audience, but because there are people out there at this very moment, lost, confused, scared, not knowing where to turn. There are people who wake up in the middle of the night with that strange feeling, that tightness in their chest, that intuition that something is wrong but they can't name what it is. There are people who feel deep down that they need to return to God but they don't know where to start. And a video like this can be the beginning. It can be the spark. It can be the little push that was missing, and that's why I ask you, if you were impacted by these words, share this video. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Send it on WhatsApp. Post it on your stories. Share it in the family group. Because your sharing can save a life. It can save a soul. It can be the means that God will use to reach someone who at this very moment is on the edge of an abyss. And on the day that person thanks you, hugs you, and says that the video changed their life, you'll understand that the click, the sharing, the simple gesture that may have been the bridge to their salvation was all worthwhile. And I know that many people are tired of seeing so much bad news. Many people want to escape, turn off the TV, get off social media, take refuge in a small world of good things. And I understand. I myself often need these pauses. I need to breathe. I need to look at the sky, at the green, at the faces of those I love, and remember that life, despite everything, continues to be good. God continues to be good. The sun continues to rise, the flowers continue to grow, the babies continue to laugh. There is beauty in the midst of chaos. There is light in the midst of darkness. There is hope in the midst of affliction. But this hope is not based on denial. It is not based on pretending that problems don't exist. It is based on trusting that the one who is greater than the problems is in control. And this trust requires first facing reality head-on, recognizing where we are, accepting the historical moment we are living through, and from there, yes, anchoring the soul in faith, because faith is not escape. Faith is confrontation. Faith is facing the giant head-on, knowing who is on your side, and moving forward anyway. That is biblical faith. The faith of the patriarchs, the faith of the prophets, the faith of the apostles, the faith of the martyrs, the faith that overcomes the world. And I need to tell you one more thing about Abraham, because this part is too beautiful to leave out. When God called Abraham, he didn't explain everything. He didn't give him the complete map. He didn't say, look, in 4,000 years, your descendants will be in a conflict near the Gulf, and the United States will intervene, and this will be a sign of the end times. He didn't say any of that. He simply said, go, go, trust. And Abraham went. And along the way, he gradually understood. He gradually discovered. He walked according to the revelation, and this is a powerful image for our lives. We don't need to know everything. We don't need to understand the whole picture. We just need to take the next step. Trust, obey, and discover along the way what God has for us. And that next step, for you, can be something very simple. It can be opening the Bible tonight. It can be praying before bed. It can be calling someone you hurt and asking for forgiveness. It can be going back to church next Sunday. It could be seeking out a pastor, an older brother, someone to help you start over. Whatever that step is, take it. Don't wait any longer. Time is running out, and those who wait too long end up losing their chance. And a chance once lost doesn't always come back. And while time runs for each of us individually, time also runs for humanity as a whole. And there, in the Strait of Hormuz, it's running faster than ever. Every day, new news. Every day, new movements. Every day, new tensions. And any spark can become a flame. And any flame can become a wildfire. And any wildfire can become something we never imagined experiencing. Because there are things that, once they begin, can't be undone. It's like a stone rolling down a mountain. You can stop a stone at the beginning of its movement, a push in the opposite direction, and it stops. But after it picks up speed, after it launches itself down the path, nothing can stop it anymore. And it's the same with international conflicts. There's a point, a precise point where they cease to be avoidable. And we on the outside, in the comfort of our homes, often don't realize when that point has been reached. We only realize it later, when it's too late. And that is perhaps the cruelest part of human history. The fact is that major tragedies could almost always have been avoided but weren't, because no one knew how to recognize the exact point at which prevention was still possible. And perhaps, just perhaps, that point is being reached now. Perhaps the stone has already started rolling. Perhaps what we are seeing in the headlines is just the tip of the iceberg of a process that, behind the scenes, is already irreversible. And that is why, once again, I insist on asking you to take this warning seriously. Don't let these words pass you by as if they were just another piece of internet content. They can be more than that. They can be the message you needed to hear at a specific moment in your life. They can be the voice of the pastor, the friend, the brother, the mother in prayer, reaching you through an unexpected path. God speaks in many ways. Sometimes through a sermon, sometimes through a dream, sometimes through a song, sometimes through a video like this one. The important thing is that we have open ears to recognize when He is speaking. And open ears in this sense are not just auditory capacity. It is a disposition of the heart. It is humility. It's a desire to receive correction and guidance, even when it hurts a little. And I want to remind you of another connection. When Abraham received the calling, it wasn't just for himself. He was called to be a blessing to all the families of the earth. All of them. Not some. All of them. And this blessing was fulfilled thousands of years later with the coming of Jesus Christ, who is the promised descendant, the one in whom the promise made to Abraham found its deepest fulfillment. And when you believe in Jesus, when you surrender your life to Him, you too, in a way, enter into this spiritual lineage. You become a child of Abraham through faith, as the apostle says, and you inherit, by grace, the promises made to that man in the desert. This is no small thing. This is one of the greatest pieces of news there is. You, ordinary, simple, with all your flaws and difficulties, can be an heir to a promise that spans 4,000 years. You can enter into a story that began in an ancient desert and will end in an eternal kingdom. Just believe. Just surrender. Just yield. And what happened today in the waters of the Gulf may be just the first of many signs yet to come. It may be the appetizer for something much bigger. It may be the first warning before many others. Or it may be, who knows, the very trigger. None of us can say for sure. Not me, not the analysts, not the generals. Only God knows the day and the hour. But all of us who have eyes to see can recognize that the stage is set. The pieces are in place. The actors are on stage. The curtain is about to rise on the next act. And the next act, according to everything that is written, will be the most intense in all of human history. So don't sleep. Don't entertain yourself with distractions. Don't run from reality. Face it head on, but with your heart anchored in the one who is greater than it. And remember, it's not about facing this alone. It's about facing it together with Him, and with Him by your side, no giant is too big, no night is too dark, no valley is too deep. And there's more. There's something I haven't told you yet, but I need to tell you now because it completely changes how we look at all of this. The Bible speaks of a moment when, before the great final confrontation, before the day of the Lord in all its intensity, Jesus will come to take His own. He will come to take from the midst of the world those who belong to Him. And this moment, this encounter in the air, is called by many the rapture. It's a quick event, silent for most, but absolutely transformative for those who participate in it. And the position a person is in at that moment determines everything. If they are prepared, they are taken. If they are not, they remain in a world that will enter a phase far more difficult than anything ever seen before. And that's why the urgency. That's why the warning. That's why the insistence that you not postpone this decision. Because it's not just about the Gulf War. It's not just about oil. It's not just about inflation. It's about where you will be when He calls His own. And calling your own people isn't a matter of merit. No one deserves it on their own. It's a matter of relationship. It's a matter of you having said yes to Jesus and surrendered your life to Him. It can be right now, at this very moment. You can stop everything, close your eyes and say, Jesus, I believe in you. I acknowledge that I am a sinner. I repent. I receive you as my Lord and Savior. Come into my heart, transform me, guide me, and I guarantee you, by His faithfulness, not by my word, that this moment is enough to change your eternity. Because He does not despise a broken and contrite heart. He never has, and He never will. Salvation is by grace, received through faith, and it is available to you now, today, this second. You don't need to wait any longer. And before I end this video, I want to leave you with an image. Imagine a large ship crossing the Strait of Hormuz in the darkness of dawn. The sea is calm, the stars are visible. The crew sleeps, except for the helmsman and a few lookouts, and silently, from the horizon, lights begin to appear. Small lights that grow and grow. And when the lookouts realize it, there are already fast boats surrounding the ship, drones flying overhead and planes crossing the sky. And it all happens in minutes. And what was a routine crossing becomes an episode that marks world history. Keep this image in your heart, because it is the synthesis of what I have been trying to tell you all this time. Today's routine can become tomorrow's crisis in a matter of minutes. And the one who was sleeping will wake up in another reality. But in spiritual life, there is no option to sleep innocently. You were warned. You heard. Now you choose. And choose wisely. Choose anchored in the Word. Choose looking upwards, not to the side. Choose understanding that there is more at stake than just your earthly life. There is an eternity, and it begins with the next breath. No one is guaranteed even the next minute. And when we understand this clearly, the way we live changes. We begin to value the little things. We begin to pay attention to people. We begin to forgive more easily. We begin to love more fully. We begin to live more in the present. And it is this life, lived in this way, that God honors. It is this life that He uses. It is this life that remains. Make your decision today. Don't leave it for tomorrow. Don't leave it for later. Let the words of this video resonate within you for the rest of the day, the rest of the week, the rest of the year. Let them disturb you in a good way. Let them take you out of your comfort zone. Let them push you closer to God. Because that's where we need to go. It's the only safe place. It's the only true refuge. And every time the world trembles, every time the headlines bring a new crisis, every time fear tries to overwhelm you, remember these words. Remember Abraham. Remember the calling. Remember the promise. Remember that the God who spoke 4,000 years ago is the same God who is speaking today. And He hasn't changed, and He doesn't change, and He will never change. He is the same, yesterday, today, and forever. And this immutability of His is our greatest security in a world where everything changes all the time. And while we wait for the next move on the board, while we watch the ships positioning themselves, the speeches intensifying, the headlines multiplying, we keep our feet firmly on the ground and our gaze turned upwards. We continue living, continue working, continue caring for our families, continue fulfilling our daily responsibilities, but with an inner difference, with an awakened conscience, with spiritual vigilance, with constant prayer, with a living hope. Because this combination is what defines a Christian of the end times, not someone paralyzed by fear, not someone disconnected from reality, but someone fully present, fully useful, fully ready. So, my brother, my sister, may peace remain, may the warning remain, may the invitation remain. Whatever happens from now on in that strait, we will follow together. And I will bring each new step here to the channel so that we can connect the dots, understand the signs, and strengthen our faith. If this message resonated with you, if something here made sense and opened your eyes in a different way, then I want to ask you 3 things now. First, like this video. It may seem simple, but it helps this message reach other people who also need to hear it. Second, write a comment below. Type, "He lives," or "Maranatha," if you believe that Jesus will return and that these signs are not a coincidence. I read the comments, and yours is valuable too. Third, if you want to understand all of this in depth, verse by verse, prophecy by prophecy, with clear explanations, maps, timelines, and connections that almost no one is showing, I have prepared a can be that answer. And before you leave, click on the video that's appearing on your screen. It's a direct continuation of everything you just watched. It will take you even deeper and make everything even clearer.